Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I have not been over here in quite some time. It just seems like day after day, I plan on making a video over here, and then it gets too late, and then I don't. So here I am. Today I am here, and I am ready to read some meditations. I brought with me today the Melody Beatty book, Journey to the Heart, and then I also brought with me the daily book of positive quotations, which I think I'm going to, oh, there, Mr. Boo Radley just came to visit. I think I'm going to read from the daily book of positive quotations first. I started reading this meditation, and I really liked what it had to say, so I'm going to read from this one first. All right, August 11th, tomorrow's joke. The crisis of today is the joke of tomorrow. H.G. Wells. When we're in the midst of a dreadful time, it often helps to remember that one day we'll be able to tell a great story about it, one we'll laugh at. We'll laugh because, in retrospect, what we thought was a crisis really wasn't so serious after all. Or we'll laugh because we made it through the crisis and came out stronger on the other side. I'll try to keep my perspective, remembering that even the worst day is only one small moment in my life. I think this is a really important meditation to kind of remember. You know, of all of the things that happen to us in our lives, one of the things I sometimes do is I gauge them on a scale of 1 to 10. You know, 1 being that this is not serious at all, and 10, this is like very, very serious. Like, as serious as it possibly could be. And, you know, I have had in my life, I would say, I don't know, you know, maybe 10 tens, and that's it, you know, and everything else falls underneath there somewhere. But in my mind, I sometimes make things that happen out to be 8s, 9s, or 10s when they're not, right? And if you think about the fact that most of our lives, if the really traumatic, horrible things that happen to us, right? The really tragic things, if those are 8, 9s, and 10s, okay? And then most days that nothing horrible or happens whatsoever, and they're, okay, those are 1s, 2s, and 3s, then the majority of the stuff that happens to us that we're gauging at 8, 9s, and 10s, is this making, I hope this is making sense. Anyway, they're really 4, 5s, and 6s, okay? And that we're playing out to be 8s, 9s, and 10s. And so what we're doing is we're catastrophizing things in our lives. And I don't know if you're somebody that's done that, but I'm somebody that has done that in the past a great deal, especially in my youth, where I would take something that was like, let's say a 3. I'm trying to think of something that would be that, but you know, where I was maybe running late, you know, by like 10 minutes, and that I would act as if I would put my body through and respond to people in ways, you know, honking my horn, get out of the way, and all that kind of stuff. I would make that be like on the level of like an 8, 9, or 10, when in reality, that's not an 8, 9, or 10. You know, it was a 3. And so I think it's about putting things in perspective and really realizing that this is not an 8, 9, or 10, you know, and really realizing that we're going to, down the road, look back on our lives and be like, okay, this wasn't as serious as it was. There are going to be things that are very, very serious. And I think that what it also allows then is, it also allows us to lend to those things that are more serious, more tragic, to give them the weight and the importance that they deserve, instead of catastrophizing everything. Like, I know people, I won't say that I've ever done this, but there was a point in my life where I catastrophized a lot, right? Or made everything very dramatic. But I have known people that literally everything in their life is a 9 or a 10. Like everything, okay? And they don't really have a lot of room for good to happen because they just can't ever see things as good because everything that happens is always so bad. So, you know, whether it's they go to the CVS and the CVS is, you know, out of, I don't know, the Capri Suns that they like, that's a 9, okay? You know, but like, getting sick is a 9 too. It's like they just can't rationalize any of that and look at it with like this real perspective. And so everything in their life is this horrible tragedy. And I just think, can you imagine even going through that? And so if you're somebody that's like that, you know, maybe start really asking yourself on a regular basis, on a daily basis, when stuff comes up, you know, it's like if you can't find your keys or something, is this a 10 or is this a 3? You know, it's probably a 3. I'm going to eventually find my keys. Or if I don't, I'm going to have to like get, you know, replacements made. It's going to work itself out. And I think that's the other thing that I really, you know, learned about a lot of things in my life that I used to like, you know, like in my 20s, catastrophize, was that they kind of just like over time work themselves out. And I think that's what this meditation is talking about, is that most things work themselves out. And then in retrospect, we look back on them. Not all. Like I said, there are some things that are very, very serious in life, right? Obviously. But I think the majority of the stuff that we catastrophize, we look back on and we go, why did I even get so upset about that, you know? Or the other thing is this, it's like, you know, if you're married or in a relationship, have you ever like had a really, really heated argument and then like 2 weeks later, like you remember the argument and you remember like how bad it was, but you don't remember what started the argument. Have you ever had that happen to you? Because I know I have on multiple occasions, right? It's like, I don't even really remember what started, but you were wrong. I know you were wrong, you know? And it's stuff like that. It's like we get so upset about things that down the road, we don't even really remember what that was all about. So anyway, I think that's a really good meditation to remember, you know, to kind of keep things in check. And like, let's not catastrophize things. Or, you know, like this doesn't have to be, or if it is the most serious thing, then let's give honor to that, right? And let's treat it as such. But let's not treat everything as 9 or 10s. Because also, I don't know many people that could live life going through things at 9 or 10s on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of energy to be putting out there into the world. So, good meditation. All right, let me read from the Melody Beatty, Journey to the Heart. August 11th, trust yourself. When you look around, feel insecure, and wonder who you can trust, know you can trust yourself. We often stand like little children, holding out our hands, waiting for someone to lead us somewhere, anywhere. We hope that someone can show us what we need to do next. We think, maybe someone else knows better. But that thought is often the beginning of trouble. If we choose to let others lead us around, we'll soon find out that they don't know what's best for us. If we abdicate responsibility for our choices, we may become angry, sometimes full of rage at others for running our lives, for telling us what to do. We need to take responsibility. We need to trust ourselves. Sometimes we do get clues or hints from others. Sometimes we get direction from outside ourselves. But it must resonate with our heart. It must resonate with what we know to be true. And the direction we take, what we do next, needs to be our choice. Because whether we see it or not, it is our choice. Trust and respond to your own heart. Trust the wisdom and guidance within you. You know, this is an interesting meditation because I am somebody that looks to others for guidance on a regular basis, and I ask for people for suggestions and advice and, you know, all of that. And I also will say that I am somebody that takes their advice. You know, I can remember a conversation that I had with my dad like years ago, and I mean, many years ago, probably, shoot, I don't know. God, it's weird to say 20 years ago. I was 30 at that time. You know, over 20 years ago at this point. And I remember I asked him for some life advice, and he said, don't ask me if you're not going to take it, you know? He was like, because if you're going to, like, ask me for, then I'm giving you advice because I really want you to have the best life possible. And that was where my dad used to talk about, you know, like this decision tree, and that, like, you know, he would say, if I could show you my life and all the decisions I've made and all the positive choices I've made and all the mistakes I've made, he goes, you would have a fantastic life if you lived based on that. But I know you have to live your life on the choices that you're going to make, right? And I think it's really, really true. And I also think that that's one of the gifts of living, is to make our own choices. I can't think of a time that I knew it truer than when my ex and I were towards the end. And it was not good. And I did ask people for advice. I asked my best friend, and, you know, Tanya, she always says, I'm not going to give you advice. She's like, I don't want you coming to me. She'll give me advice on life stuff, but like, as far as like that kind of stuff, she would never say, yeah, it's time for you guys to break up. She would never do that, because she'll say, I don't want you to make the decision based on something I tell you, you know? I do remember that, you know, I said something to my dad. I said, how do you know when it's over? And he said, I remember he was like real sad about it. He was like, oh, Pete, he was like, if you feel that way, he goes, chances are it probably already is. And that was like a month before we broke up. And I was just in my head a lot, living, like, I didn't know, like, is it savable? Is it not? You know, and neither one of us really were thinking much about getting into counseling. But there was like a week before we broke up where I was like, I didn't really talk to anybody. I didn't talk to Tanya. I didn't talk to my sponsor. I didn't talk to really anybody, and definitely not about what was going on in my head, specifically for the reason because I knew that if we were going to break up, or if I was going to break up with him, I wanted that choice to be mine. I didn't want that to be something that I was going to look back on and be like, oh, so-and-so told me this, or so-and-so said this to me, or whatever. I wanted to know that that was my choice, that at that time, I felt that that was what was best for me. And there have been many decisions in my life that at that time, I have had to say, okay, this is what is best for me, or whatever, you know? And I think that that is where you do take responsibility for your life, you know, and the choices that you make and things like that. And I think that's only where we grow as people and human beings, is when we do that. And that's not always easy, you know, and definitely getting out of that relationship was not an easy choice, you know, or getting out of any relationship that I've ever gotten out of. But like, I think, I will say this, that had I not had to be in my head for that week or two before that and make that decision on my own and go through all of that, I think like when it came to Alex and I getting to the point where we were like marriage counseling or divorce, I was like very quick to go into marriage counseling. Well, not very quick, but like when Alex said to me, like, we're either going to go to marriage counseling or this marriage isn't going to make it, like I knew, like we're at that point, like I need to go, because I had lived through that before, right? So I knew that was we were at the point where I needed to get my butt into some counseling and talk about stuff. And I'm happy for having had that experience, you know? I wasn't happy at the time. I think that's a little bit going back to like the first meditation of talking about, you know, where you'll look back on situations that have happened to you and you'll laugh about them. I don't necessarily laugh about that looking back on it, but I do feel like it plays out its importance in my life today, you know? It's like, you know, every relationship I ever had, everything I went through with any past boyfriend that I dated or anybody that I dated or whatever, has made me the better husband that I am today for my husband. And likewise, I think with him, you know? And so, I think that's where we pay homage to the past and our choices and the mistakes that we made, you know? I don't learn much from success. I learn more from the mistakes that I've made in my life so that I can better myself from those mistakes, you know? And, you know, when sometimes, I won't say I haven't ever learned from success. I mean, there are things that I have done successfully that then I look at and I go, wow, like, you know, when I was in grad school, I mean, I was like either work or school, period. Like that was my life. Like I was working 40, 50 hours a week, or I was in school and I was taking 15 credit hours and I had a practicum and whatever. And what I realized through that was anything that you want in life, as long as you are dedicated enough to it, you can have. You can have anything in life that you want as long as you are dedicated enough and are willing to work hard enough at it. And that's what I learned going through that period of my life, right? So there are some things that I have learned through success, but I think the majority of the things that I have learned in my life are typically from when I'm like, okay, that did not work. So what can I do differently the next time? You know, what will work, you know, if I do something different this time? And I've kind of had to like do a lot of, and obviously you know this, I've done a lot of evaluation and inventory in my life, taking a look at the things that didn't work for me or the heartfelt feelings that I had and what my part is in that, and taking responsibility and saying, okay, what is my part in this and what can I do differently going forward? And that is powerful and profound, you know? Because then what you realize is with that responsibility comes some sense of power, you know, that you have the ability to change things for the better in your own life. And that's essentially, I think, what everybody wants, right? You know? So anyway, great meditations today. I'm happy to be back. I missed you guys, and I love you, and I will see you in my next video.